Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment of Modern Slackers, the 5 modern pillars to success. We have a very interesting guest today. And this guest, Rob Eastman, has done some incredible things for mental health. And this is a topic that we haven't covered. And I think it needs to be pillar number one. So, Rob, please go ahead and introduce yourself to our now 200,000 Apple listeners. Thank you, guys.
Wow. Congratulations on that. That's pretty amazing and
Thank you.
awesome. And I feel honored to be on the show. Yeah, so I'm born and raised in a town called Bountiful, Utah, USA. And
Right up the road from me. I'm in Salt Lake now.
Yeah, right on. I think I was brought up pretty normal. I got a younger brother, 3 older sisters, and anybody that's listening to Redhead, I've got that extra fire. So I'm currently, I own and operate a business in Centerville, a few, and just living life, man.
Yeah, Eastman Fitness. You do tattooed life coaching. Awesome name. I love that. I made my money in marketing. The Village Effect, Stand Out, Stand and Fight podcast. How's that going?
It's good, man. It was that kind of came to pass in the sense my dad passed away 11 years ago, and we didn't really have much of a journal. We didn't have any recordings of his voice. So I only have one daughter, and that's all I'm having. I got fixed early into my recovery.
So did I. Congrats.
And I felt like if anything, I wanted my daughter to know who I was and what I stood for. So that's how the podcast started out, and having the tough conversations that people didn't want to have that needed to be had. So it's good. And, it's not a top priority of mine, but it's got a lot of great content, and I've had some amazing people on there. So it's more of a life journal. Has
that been met with a lot of conflict when you're talking about these topics that no one wants to mention?
It surprisingly, it hasn't. It's been met with a bunch of love because people are struggling in silence. And that's the part that I'm screaming from the rooftops, man. So I'm a warrior.
So we can call you the advocate for these people. Now, I understand you coach men and women.
Yeah, I'm K through life.
Okay. I love it, man. I love it so much because we always talk about on the podcast that men have no outlets, and like men, we handle breakups a lot differently than women can, because women always have a backup plan or 50 other guys in their DMs. We got 1 or 2 women, and we always internalize in what's our outlet. And so that's actually a good segue into that question. What do men need to do with it? I mean, because it can end in tragedy. I've seen CEOs jump out the 50-story building of their skyscraper apartment because their wife is cheating on them, and it's like all this bottled up energy is leading to people killing themselves, getting into fights. How would you respond to that through your podcast?
The big issue is masculinity and what that even means, and a lot of people are getting it wrong. They see it like, we want guns taken away, we want violence to stop. It's like, Jordan Peterson says it best, like, you should be absolute monster. You should be completely violent and then learn how to control that.
Control it. Yes,
and
sir.
then growing up in my day and age, like if you were raised in the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, that we weren't taught how to talk about our emotions. You sure as shit didn't talk about your emotions. You were supposed to provide for the family. You were supposed to do all these things. And now we're finding that all of those things that we could have easily talked about and let go of are now killing our baddest ass warriors, our soldiers, our CEOs, like you were saying, like millionaires, billionaires killing themselves because all of that fluff that society dangled in front of us doesn't matter to the man looking back in the mirror. Like, men want to be loved.
It's your only competitor, is what I've learned over 30 years, is the guy I face in the mirror every day is my only competitor at this point in my life. But I've had a best friend who he committed suicide, and he had no outlets. His family hated him because he wasn't Mormon. He started using drugs heavily, and he would never open up to me. And I just wanted to protect the guy. And he took his life a couple years ago. And it was one of the weirdest concepts for me, because I haven't been faced with a lot of death or tragedy like that. So to see an open casket of someone that you loved and to touch their hand and realize that's not them anymore, it freaked me out.
Yeah.
I'm be honest
Yeah.
with you. And he was tough as nails. This guy, I mean, was buff. He was tough as shit, and he's not a guy you'd want to mess with. But inside, he was weak.
Yeah. And it's, the weak is not it. It's depression is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of being
Ooh,
strong for too long.
that's a good
So
question. A quotation I saw on your Instagram, I believe.
yeah, so I've got my best friend tattooed right here that says my story isn't over, because I learned early on how keeping things in, acting tough, or putting on that rough exterior, that's not what being a man is. That's not tough. You
Right.
know, tough is being willing to have those tough conversations, cry if you need to, and then take action and change it.
Yeah, and most men don't take action though. So what are you doing
Yeah.
to draw these guys out? How do we get that sink, line, and hook, and pull them out of that shit? Because I've tried with multiple friends, and it's like they either say I'm a toxic masculinity, or like I tell my fat friends, I don't joke around. I'm like, dude, shed your damn weight. Like if you
Yeah.
quit complaining about not getting women, shed the weight. And they're like, you're just a toxic masculinist, and I'm not. And I love women, and
Yeah.
women are great, and I have nothing against women or any movement. I support I'm pretty neutral, man. But I can't seem to get my friends that are suffering, because I personally suffered. Growing up, I was homeless at 14 years old, and somehow turned my life around through a weird series of events that is highlighted on the podcast quite a bit. But like, how are you pulling these men in? How you hooking them?
I think the everybody judges by appearance, right? That's the first thing. So they see me, tattoos, muscles, whatever, and then the next thing they see is either me being vulnerable about something very personal that would be seen as weak, but also out there killing it in life, business,
Yes.
on the mat, whatever it is. I tend to lead by example. Like when I go to wrestling, all my coaches, we are on the mat grappling as hard or harder than anybody in the room. I've never
Yep.
been a do as I say, not as I do type of guy. I never learned that way. Like if you're going to tell me to do something, your ass better be shoulder to shoulder with me.
I love it. I
So
love it. I always teach that to my entrepreneurs in the community. And I say, never trust someone on how to sell a product if they've never sold it themselves. And I believe that tooth and nail. And the same thing goes here. And I want to touch on the first impression that you just mentioned. When I met you in the fighter's corner at Steel Fist, I was scared shitless to walk up and talk to you. I was like, this is the guy you don't want to mess with at all. Like, I'm going to keep my distance. And I was talking shit to most people in the back room. I was just having a great time as a cut man. I didn't even know what I was doing there, honestly. Like, we forgot Vaseline for our fighter. He got messed up. The Caleb Montez fight.
yeah, yeah, that was a tough one.
Oh man, they were both going for the fences. Caleb walked the other way. He was confused, and he stopped talking to me after that. That I spilled water in his corner, and he slipped on it. That landed to the TK. Man, it was the worst setup. Don't hire me as a cut man. Seriously, for everyone that's watching, hire Rob. I mean, I've seen him do his work out there. But my first impression of you was, I'm staying the hell away from this guy. And then I
Yeah,
found your Instagram, right? And then I started going through it, and I started diving through it. And it's like, it's complete polar opposites of what your first impression is. And I think men, we see guys like this, and it's like, we want to be like him. That's
yeah,
the predator, that's the apex male. But then you got this other side where it's psychology based, where you can help these men in so many different areas of their life, which is,
yeah.
I think, might be the only way you can get through to men.
And there's so many different avenues, and ultimately it always stems back to their inner child of either what they got too much of
Sure.
or what they didn't get. And when they started developing those skills to protect that little kid, and how that manifests itself either in business or relationships or lack thereof, both.
Right.
So one thing that's hard, especially in Utah, is judgment. And I think it's anywhere where there's a stronghold of any kind of religion, whatever.
Provo. Let's talk about Provo. I lived there for a year, and I started using drugs.
Yeah. So so for me, my dad was very successful. He was the state senator. He owned car
Oh
dealerships.
wow.
He was the school board president. So I know all about being in the spotlight, and my second chance, the judgment on me when I was using and struggling was so great that I want people to judge me when I'm walking in, and then I'm the keynote speaker, and they're like,
I
"Oh
love it.
shit."
Yeah.
It was a funny story. I was hired by the state school board to go and speak to their PE and health teachers and share my story.
Right.
And I always go in a t-shirt, flat brim hat. I met Eric Thomas years ago, and we had that conversation about you'll never be the best copycat and just be the best you. And I feel the most comfortable in a t-shirt, jeans, and my
Yep.
hat. I get
Yes,
like
sir.
PTSD from wearing a suit and shit. I start sweating and feel uncomfortable. But when I walked in, two of the ladies grabbed me and they're like, "This is a private event. You can't be in here," like shuffling me
Right.
out. And the dude's like, "Yo, that's our guy." And I just smiled. Like, that's exactly what I want. I don't
Yeah.
recommend people get tattooed from head to toe because there's hella judgment, but I
Well,
use it as a tool in what I'm doing.
you know,
Kids,
I moved to Southern California. It wasn't. I didn't get judged for my tattoos like I do in Utah.
no, it's definitely, and
It's
and it's
here.
not as big of a deal anymore because pretty much everybody has tattoos.
Even the
But
Mormons have tattoos now. They hide them. They get these
yeah.
white colored tattoos. It's like a
But
little scar.
yeah, the difference when I sit down with a kid, they're used to seeing a teacher, a parent, a church leader, a cop, whatever it is, and they sit with me and I haven't even said a word, and next thing I know everything about them.
Oh,
Like,
good.
it's just like it eliminates all that uncomfortableness, and they just lay it out because they know I'm not going to judge them. And the
Yeah.
same for changing the mindset of somebody at church or somebody in a business or in an office of what it is, and they see that tattoos or addict or any of that stuff, they're like homeless, bum, worthless. And then we bridge that gap and they start to have a little more compassion. So if I can do that and I can start bridging the gap, it's going to give everybody else the opportunity to have whatever they want without that stigma.
It
But
sounds like you're
we've got
already
a long way
bridging
to
it.
go.
You've already started bridging the gap. I mean,
Trying.
my biggest struggle was I looked probably 15 when I started my first business, and I was hiring 40-year-olds, and they would just look at me like, "Who the hell's grandson is this?" And I was the owner of the company. And when I had my first acquisition, I went into the boardroom of a big company out here in Utah to sell my company, and they were like, uh, where's the CEO of this company?" And I'm like, "This is him." And so I've always had to bridge gaps, and
Yeah.
people judge based on my looks. Now I got a beard, I'm doing a lot better at 30, but 25 to 30 was just a complete train wreck of trying to figure out who the hell I was. So I understand trying to bridge gaps and stuff, and that was my personal struggle, especially with business. Now I do want to ask you a question, and I think this question is very, very important. Do you think that people with mental health issues need to need to work on that before they start a business?
Well, the problem with that is I don't know if I've met many people struggling with some kind of mental health issue that aren't brilliant.
Hmm, absolutely.
I think they feel deeper. I think they see differently, and that's why they're the entrepreneurial spirits. They don't fall, they don't fit into the box. That 9 to 5 never made sense.
Right.
So as we go through, they feel like maybe they lose their creative edge if they take their bipolar meds or whatever. Like, you can
Steve
create
Jobs.
something.
Steve Jobs
Yeah.
is bipolar.
So you can
Biggest
create
innovator ever.
something. Yeah, you can create something amazing, but to maintain that, you have to be mentally stable.
Right.
So I feel like every coach needs a coach. Every entrepreneur needs mentors who understand them specifically and how to kind of be the puppet master. And they need to believe in those mentors so much
Right.
that if we say, pump your brakes, go to Hawaii for a week, go see your therapist, that you actually do that and you don't take offense to that.
You know,
Because
I had that problem myself actually, where I grew up bipolar. I'm not bipolar anymore. I guess it can. I don't. Now I'm not diagnosed as bipolar, and I would get so many great ideas that could have turned into amazing. Like me and my grandfather came up with the concept for Tinder, like 10 years before it came out. And it was like, this was
Bad
like,
grandpa.
I'm so just, he didn't want to invest in it. He's worth $500 million. So it's like, come on, dude. Like we could have taken over that market, uh, but then I figured out like it is a balancing act. I mean, there's times where I have to hire an interim CEO to run my company just because I'm panicking in the brain and I need an outlet. And my outlet is usually driving and listening to podcasts. I think I put 150,000 miles in a year on my truck, just listening to podcasts, driving down the road, self-help videos and self-help talks and stuff like that.
So I like what you said there is a lot of people don't put themselves in a situation or can't check their ego enough to know when to step away for a minute. And like I talk about my relationship with people and things like that. When I got sober, I needed to revamp how I saw things and did things. But the one I didn't work on that I didn't think about was my relationship with pain, both physical, emotional, spiritual. And as an entrepreneur, and you're switching hats throughout the day and things aren't, it's Monday and most people get to go to work and get a paycheck. We're like, oh shit, we have nothing. So the stress levels and the ups and the downs, you have to have a team. You have to have somebody who's brain smart for you, who sees your body language, who knows in that moment, like, yo, we are going for a drive.
And I tell people, do not, you might disagree with this, but I tell our entrepreneurs, do not focus on your weaknesses, hire your weaknesses, focus on your strengths. And I think it's the perfect complementary system for someone with mental health issues starting a business is like, hey, it's okay to be weak in these areas. If you need to go take a drive, you got your guy that can hold down the shop until you get back. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. I have no desire to be my tax guy. I have no desire to be my marketing guy. I'm going to do what I do well, because when I do that, that's where I make my money. I don't want to clean my house. I don't like, there's just things I don't
clean my house either.
So my quality of life went up when I quit acting and trying to wear these other hats that I have zero interest in, which is a great conversation about today's youth. Everybody, like, they're dangling this carrot, like your test scores, you're this, you're that. Like the return on investment of college is not what it used to be.
Not at all.
You can make more money being a welder. You can make more money about, all these different things. So these kids are freaked out that their grades suck, but over here they're a genius.
Well, we also got toxic Instagram. Like I saw, here's an example. I'm not going to name drop the person because it's a part of my family, but their daughter, 14 years old, is now posting barely nude photos on Instagram because she sees the Kardashians and shit doing it and other IG thoughts. And it's like 12 years old doing stuff like that, or 14. That's unacceptable. And I feel like everyone's so glued. I'm a part of the generation that played in dirt. We didn't have the iPhone. We had the screeching dial up. We had the AOL chat and stuff like that. And so you see these kids where they're completely judging their entire value of their life based on what other people are showing and displaying on Instagram. So how do you respond to that when you go meet with these kids?
So to take it even a step farther back, is they are getting all of that data. That's what they see, but they're also becoming addicted to that phone. So when they don't have it, they're experiencing withdrawals, which is manifesting itself in anxiety, depression. So they're filling themselves with that nonstop. So you're at school all day getting taught. Then when they're not there, they're on their phone, walking through the hallway, whatever it is, they're inputting this data. We call it white space. They have no white space. They're listening to music, looking at something, and then they lay down to go to sleep. And now they're experiencing this insomnia, if you will. Their brain's going a million miles an hour, and they are so exhausted that they're ready to kill themselves, that they can't even understand what's going on. And it's not substance, it's now the phone.
It's the phone.
It gives you the same dopamines. It's the same deal. And it's like you look at a little 3-year-old. I saw this little kid. He had to have been like 3 or 4. Dude, he looked like a CEO on his laptop or on his iPad. He's like, finds a little cartoon. Dink. I was like, I don't even know how to do that. Like you have a library of instant gratification as a 4-year-old. Like what happened to self-soothing and all of these things? It's so there's like we're in trouble.
No, we're in so much trouble. And I tell all my entrepreneurs, my life was a train wreck last year. Okay, I tripled my net worth this year. And how I did it was I disassociated from all social media platforms and spent nearly 80% of my time learning. And all I did was drive and learn and listen to business books. And that was it. My business is tanked in that process, but we came back with all this knowledge and expertise. And I was super excited to come back to it. I mean, my life was a train wreck. So I tell my entrepreneurs, delete Apple Music, delete any Spotify apps, delete anything that's just video games or distraction, social media, and just listen to business books, because your subconscious literally is trained to pick up on these things. And when it hears it enough, it becomes into words and actions and behaviors. So how can we translate that to the younger generation? Because they have, where's my iPhone? Rob, this is the most powerful thing in the world. I can get a master's degree education on my phone, but here we are getting dopamine hits. Oh, I got a new like today. And I found myself at 26 deleting photos because I didn't get enough likes. That's 26 years old.
Yeah.
That's terrible. These kids are 13, 15. You said 3.
Yeah. So, well, you see the moms chit-chatting it up and their baby cries. It's no longer a binky.
It's an
iPhone. You know, that's just how they parent. The kid will shut up if he's looking at something. Yeah. And you're just programming a little zombie. But the problem is the technology is not going anywhere. Parents need the update, not the kids. We need to learn how to use it as a tool. There needs to be downtime. It's like you have to take a test. You have to practice drive a car before you get your license.
I'm going to quote you on that.
They know it's addiction.
Yep.
But there's no restrictions. You know, you're 7 letters away from your little kid seeing anything and everything it wants on, we won't say, like, come on, man. And you claim little Johnny doesn't know.
Hey, that's my name.
You know, and parents don't want to educate on sex or religion or all these things. And we're getting so politically correct and all this stuff. And it's just, that stuff's harmful.
It's super harmful for both young and old.
You know, and the LGBTQ community, whatever it is, it's like people shouldn't die for anything. There should be no reason for suicide, whatever it is. Everything is surrounded around mental health. It's like serial killers. Guess what? Normal people don't do that. Rapists, guess what? Normal people don't do that.
But normal people also don't create innovative companies. So what's the correlation there? I mean, I think you got to be crazy to make money as a solo entrepreneur. Like you're basically saying you are not like everyone else, which I think is what there's 2 forms of crazy. There's the suicide, or not suicide, but the psychopaths. But then there's the innovators. And so
there's a difference. If you're harming people, that needs to be looked at. You know what I mean? So as we innovate, there needs to be as much education for your product in the other side of things that could happen. And obviously, you know, they've been putting cancer warnings on cigarettes since the beginning of time. They don't care. They also own the companies of the gum that gets you off the cigarettes, you know? So
that's what I'm chewing right now. By the way, we are not sponsored by Kroger nicotine gum.
But I think it just comes down to like what you said, where you shut everything off and you educated yourself. And then you made an educated decision. That's it.
Father growing up. See, you brought that up in the beginning of the show, was how we were raised. And my attachment style until last year was anxious, which means if she's not texting me back in 5 minutes, I'm going to kill myself. She's cheating on me. Now I've become this avoidant. It's like I went the opposite direction. And that's through all this education. Now I have very stable relationships, but I'm on the avoidance side. It takes a while for a woman to enter my frame and to be a part of my inner circle. I wear a fake wedding band just because this is my year to focus on myself again. And it's just a daily reminder. But women actually approach me more with it on than off, which isn't
that weird?
It's messed up, man. That's why I'm scared to death of marriage. Are you married?
No.
Good man.
Nope,
Good
I have
man.
been quite a few times, so I've learned my lesson there. But
Yeah,
it, you know,
bites
it
you in the
sounds
ass.
like we need to spend a little bit of time together, and I can help. I'm massive on exposure therapy. Whatever you fear
Yes.
most, let's go sit in there and talk about it. Let's go shake hands with that pain and identify, because as people avoid or change their life up to be more comfortable or things like that, then it gets smaller. You're now
Yes.
putting boundaries, like you want boundaries in relationships and respect of business members, things like that. But as a human, like I just got called yesterday to be a team lead to take a group of 15 to the top of Kilimanjaro, June 26th. If you
Good
want to
for
go, you
you.
should hit it. But I don't care where you come from, what has happened in your life. You are not going to come back the same person that left.
Oh, that's a statement
End of
piece right there.
story.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to be you're around people, but you are climbing that mountain. You're experiencing sickness, you're experiencing fear, you're experiencing whatever, but you got to put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And in that process is where you find out who you truly are, and what I would call true confidence. That's why I got into ultra marathons. I was ranked in the world in obstacle racing. I started cage fighting at 35 years old,
Yeah, I
taking a
saw
fight
some of
off
your
of Facebook.
videos. Yeah,
It's
man.
like, who does that? But I didn't want to be afraid anymore. And I didn't
That's
want
where
to act
yeah.
tough.
I like this, man.
I
You're
acted.
you know, by first impressions, guys. For everyone that's listening on the Apple Podcast, YouTube, go to hell because you're shadow banning us. But 200,000 listeners, come over to YouTube and you got to see this guy, Rob Eastman, because his first impression, we're gonna create a brand asset to show you guys. You're not going to believe it's the guy that's talking right now that you're hearing as you're driving your car, as you're going to work, whatever you're doing, listening to this podcast. And what I'm going to do, I want to do a little fun, just quick little break and share an Instagram of yours. I don't know. Let me know if you can see this.
Yep.
Okay, let's go ahead and play this. Okay, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so what's going on here?
Man, I've done a lot of speaking engagements and stuff, but we got to this middle school a little bit early, and I'm a kid inside, and they were playing dodgeball. So I was like, yo, what team am I on? So I played dodgeball with some of the
I
kids.
love it.
And then when they started coming in, they were like, are you the tattooed life coach, Rob Eastman? And they're chanting. And like, it felt pretty good. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
of
It's like
course it
fifth
does.
graders to eight. And
Yeah,
they were just hamming it up, man. They were so excited to have
that's
somebody
cool.
come and talk about things that they all are either experiencing or seeing. And at that age, the cognitive reasoning is not amazing. So whether
Right.
it's their big brother or their parents are fighting and they don't know what's going on or whatever, to have somebody be honest with them, it's life changing. They're getting the information that's not math, science, English, it's the soul. And they can then better help their little brother. I've got this text message I got when I woke up this morning. Do you mind if I read just the
Yeah,
first
please go ahead. I'm
bill
just
to
gonna
kind of
highlight your Instagram here for everyone on Apple Podcast. Follow him at Tattooed Life Coach H or eight eight Tattooed Life Coach 8. We have to spell it out because no one's watching on YouTube.
Yeah, so I this is the stuff I wake up to, and some of the stuff that fuels me. That I wake up and it's just a random number, and so I looked and it says, "My brother is having a tough time, and is thinking about committing suicide. I found this number at your assembly at Mountain Green Middle School. Can you help?" And I said, "How old are you? How old's your brother? Does anyone know?" He said, "I'm 12 and my brother's 9. My mom might
Oh,
know, but not my dad." And I'll leave it at that. But it's sad that a 12-year-old is trying to make sense of his 9-year-old brother wanting to end his life, and the best outlet he has is some random dude.
hey, but that's the impact you're making, Rob. You got to
But
give
that
you got to.
scares me.
Well, that's the reality of the world, though. That's
And
the unfortunate truth, right? It's like apparently these kids don't have outlets now. That's
it's
our future, man.
Yeah.
So that text when you got it, what was your emotion? What was your counter response? I mean, where do you go with that?
And I just tried to help walk him down the pipeline of letting him know that it's okay to let an adult know, and that he's not in trouble, and that he's doing the right thing, and that I made him promise me that he would go right to school and let his principal know and his counselor know that they could better. I imagine that if the case is that the parents are tough or they're going through something and he didn't want to burden them, that
Right.
another adult trained in that area could better help facilitate that conversation, because no 12-year-old, no 9-year-old should have to carry that weight. And I always talk about, what does a friend mean when you're in elementary, junior high, high school? You are loyal to, like, you're going to die together, right?
Yeah,
You're
of
blood
course.
brothers. Part of that means you keep secrets. Part of that means you know your buddies are struggling and you're not going to tell anybody because they told you not to.
Of course.
If I would have told somebody, my buddy might be here with me right now. So I let him know that being a real friend means that you might need to get in trouble by your friend sometime, that if you know they're struggling, it means you need to get them help, because that is not a burden you want to carry. And you're not old enough to even fathom that.
Dude,
So
I think we got to title this episode "Parents Need to Step Up," because there's so much out of this that I can use for business, that our followers can use for their children. A lot of our followers have children. And
yeah,
I don't know. My creative team will come up with the titles, but I mean, it could simply just be, Rob Eastman, parents need to step up, one, and then we'll do a part two, and then a part three, because I have prepared questions, but I haven't even asked one of them yet. That's how well this is flowing. I mean, it's just when you get a guest like you, it's just, exactly how to make your statements well known, and you make my job super. I get to sit here and look dumb. So
yeah.
I appreciate you making my job as
You
easy
know,
as possible, man.
and I think on the stepping up part, it's like they're only functioning off of what they know as well. I think society needs to step up in the sense that we need to provide better resources and more available education for our communities. We're spending all this
Agreed.
money on random stuff that you could easily put together a community event once a month that targets parenting skills, troubled youth, coming leadership camps, and I imagine they do, but maybe just not the right people facilitating them or what. But I know parents are scared, man. They don't know what to
Of
do.
course.
And it's not necessarily their fault, because all they're going off of is what they know or what they were taught. So a
Well,
lot
think
of it
about
is
these
family
these
tree cultural.
think about these not millennials, the next one, the 2000 babies that grew up with the iPhones, what they're going to be as parents.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm scared. I'm terrified, actually, and that's why I think podcasting is a recession-proof industry. I mean, it doesn't cost much, and people join us. So, you guys, I mean, you have all these great quotes. I think I've liked probably half of your stuff, and it doesn't matter who you used to be. Let's explain this one. Why'd you post this?
Uh, this kind of comes back to all of those things. I started being bullied day one, kindergarten. I was suicidal by the third grade.
Wow.
I just started fighting back, and it doesn't matter what, how tough I acted. I believe those bullies after a while. You think you're stupid, you think you're dumb, and then you go off and get into drugs and alcohol. And anybody that's ever done any of those know that you make decisions you would never make sober.
Absolutely.
Now you're carrying that shame and all these things, and then you get to, sometimes they never get out of it because of that shame. But I got to a point where I was like 4 years sober and I'm helping people out and I'm getting married. And I told my stepson at the time, I said, look, dude, like, we went to a double header in baseball and I'm cage fighting at the time. I'm like, wait, like, you might get up and you might get a catch, bro. We got to switch sports. Like,
Yeah.
just, so he asked me, he's like, well, what about wrestling? And I had never wrestled.
Yeah.
Right. And I did in seventh grade, I think.
Sure.
And so I went into the school already to help out, give my free time. And they're like, yeah, you can't be here. You need to have a background check. And it'd been 4 years of being sober. I'd never been like officially charged with anything
Sure.
or
Sure.
convicted of anything.
Yeah.
And I go in and I get my fingerprints done. They're like, we'll let you know in the next 2 weeks. And I got an email back the next day and it said, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
And
Of
I got
course.
all insecure. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So they also send you your background check. There was like 4 pages of stuff, dude. So I'm
Oh
like,
boy.
you know what? As a piece of paper, I look terrifying. So I set an appointment with the guy at the school district. I went in and I passed it across the table. I said, where would you like to start? And I shared my story. Dude was teary-eyed and he stamped it approved and he said, we need more coaches like you.
See, it's that whole transformation from here's what it looks like on paper to here's who I am as a person.
But if people don't learn those communication skills or build that true confidence to help those outside of that understanding to understand it and be more open-minded, then you're always going to be just a piece of paper.
This is just an incredible quote, though. I mean, I think it resonates with most of. We're the modern slackers, so our goal is to really piss off all the old people in business, and we're doing a great job at it, obviously. So,
Yeah.
most of our followers, they really are stuck on who they should be determined by their parents. And what I like about this
Yeah.
quote is it kind of says, no, you can be yourself, and who you used to be is not who you're gonna be.
Yeah, so I talk about that a lot because, like I said, my dad was very successful. And when what I thought he wanted for me and what he really wanted for me were 2 different things. What he wanted for me was to be happy, to work hard, and to be great at whatever I decided. In
Right.
my little eyes, I saw him being a car dealer and I was just going to change his name out for mine. Right. So entitlement,
Sure.
things like that. So now I
Yep.
talk about dangling that carrot. It's like, y'all are either military age or a few years from it, and you're taking these tests that you don't even care about. It's time for you to step up and start experiencing life and chase what you do want. And when you find something you want, guys like me and you can teach you how to make money doing that. But if you get a job that you hate, the 9 to 5, every Sunday, you will have anxiety.
Every freaking Sunday. I'm backing that up 100%.
You will get the flu quite often during the month.
Of
You
course.
will, like, why would you go waste all that time and effort on something that you hate if you're going to fail it anyways?
Because it goes against the social construct and people are scared. That's
Yeah.
why our modern slackers, like our very generous community, we get some haters. We love haters because they just make us more famous. So we're writing a book right now, and I mean seriously, if you're going to bed, waking up at 5 a.m. to do a job that's making someone else live their dream, that just doesn't make sense to me. Now,
Yeah.
it makes sense to 98% of the population, though.
Yeah. It's supposed to be safe and secure and all these different things. But
There is no safe and secure. When the government
Yeah.
prints more money, their savings account gets depleted. I learned that through economics. I used to be a far left liberal until I read an economics book. Now I'm like, wait a minute, my money is not safe. And when they print more money, wait, now that it's devalued. So it's just, I'm a big proponent of investing every dollar, and I've done very well in investing. I love investing. I love real estate. It's just businesses, startups, entrepreneurship, podcasting. I finally found out, but it took me 30 years to figure out what I love to do. How long did it take you to figure out what Rob Eastman, loves to do?
Man, too long for sure. I chased nonsense, girls, cars,
We all
and
did.
things for pretty much the first half of my life.
Mhm.
And all I wanted, once I got sober, my daughter was like 7 months old, and all I wanted was to stay sober. I didn't care what it was.
Was she the
And
reason?
yeah, I had a God moment, and that definitely had to do with her. But then the only thing I was ever good at was athletics. And so after my terrible job, I would go to the elementary school and train people for free, giving them this psychology that I was learning because I went back to school to study psychology because I couldn't afford a therapist, and I got a Pell Grant from the government, and I only took psychology.
Congrats, man.
So as I was doing it, it sparked this fire in my ass, man. And I was like, this is it. And I would have been happy to have been homeless and just train people for free because it felt
That's what I'm talking about.
good.
People don't understand when I tell them this. Is like, I would be homeless living in my car and still doing what I do because I love it so much.
Yeah.
I've just been blessed that some of my startups have sold for quite a little, for some cash. But if this was all your race, all my money was gone, I'd still be happy talking to people like you.
Yeah. And that's how I feel. Whether I'm a billionaire or homeless, I'm still going to be trying to help people out of hell.
Hey, I own 4 houses in Utah. You can have any one you want, man, whenever you need it. So if you do decide to go homeless, make sure to check in with me. I'll give you free rent for 5 years. I got your back, man.
Perfect, perfect. But the beauty of that experience, people fear like losing the money. All your house, your wife, your husband, your cars, your whatever, that can be taken. Your life experience cannot. What you learn along the way in the journey, the eyes wide open, the not rushing to the next destination because you should enjoy the ride. That's the important stuff. And people don't understand that. Like going to a job you hate. Cool. You hate the job. Why don't you learn to get involved with the people there on a different level and get to know them as humans? Then you don't have to hate it so much. Then you're hanging out with your friends all day.
Right.
And it's like, there's a million ways to spin it, but if everybody has some kind of a talent that's marketable, but if they don't have that understanding or support system that can push them to that, then they'll never even uncover that, let alone take a chance on themselves. So I'm all about making people quit their jobs,
So
man.
coaches need coaches is what I like. I love what you said there, because for all the people on Apple, please come over to YouTube and look at this guy's Instagram. We spelled it out a couple times, and at the end of the show, we'll give you all the different ways you can connect with him, and in the descriptions. But I have a therapist. I have 2 therapists. One for unpacking childhood trauma, and another one for balancing my maturity through my businesses. Because there's a book called The Entrepreneurship Roller Coaster, aligns perfectly with what the hell I've experienced in business. You come out all ambitious and you're hit in the face with a kick, a flying back kick by John Jones. And you have to wake up the next day and say, I want to do it again. That's the entrepreneurship roller coaster. And you get these highs, you get these lows. And having someone to talk to about those highs and lows and keep you moderate is so freaking important. And I am always pressing that on our audience, because you can't go at it alone. And I did start and sell a business by myself, and I would never do it again at all.
Yeah. I just think it's that you've got to have somebody that understands you enough to continuously help you grow, whether that be in business, in life, in spirituality, in whatever, so that you never get complacent and you never hit that plateau of like, now what? Like there's always more. You will never arrive. Money doesn't matter. Enlightenment doesn't matter. You want to be that full rounded, perfect circle. And that takes work and that takes influence. So I like
I did a influential Peru trip with ayahuasca, and that, oh boy, I came out a different. I'll tell you one thing. I asked the shaman. I said, "Make it stop." He's like, "Oh boy, no, you're in for a ride." I was like, oh shit! So I've experienced a lot in my life, and I would never go back to psychedelics. But they really made me face my deepest, darkest inner little B word, and confront that guy and decide, do I really hate my parents? I mean, on paper I do, but I've made peace with them in my head. I haven't talked to my parents in, I don't know, 15 years since they made me homeless. So I was homeless with my dog, Lucky. So I started a foundation, Lucky's Rescue, and we rescue so many different dogs that need help. And where am I getting at here? I don't know, but I guess men need coaches, women need coaches. Would you say it's more men focused or more women? Because we get more men on our podcast.
Yeah, man. I think everybody, when it comes down to that human level, it's kind of all the same. It's the little girl that didn't have her dad, or the man that had a mean dad or not a loving mother, or it's we're this way because of experience, and we're this way because of either good coping skills or bad coping skills, survival mode or nurturement. So it's, people are thinking they're broken or they're less than or this or that. Nah, you just need to know the book that you wrote. You need to understand the lessons. You need to get better at that, and then utilize like my fails are my best tools. I make double 6 figures on using my fails. I don't know anything else. I just know what not to do. It's like, shit, man, I know that ain't gonna work. Do this.
My parents, I have a joke with my sister. My parents taught me how to become the best parent. by showing me what not to do. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's true.
unfortunately, she's doing what our parents did to us, and I decided I got snipped when I turned 18. I said I'm not gonna let this madness continue on, because my whole bloodline is messed up, like all mental health, all train wrecks,
Yeah.
and I'm ending it. It ends with me, so I put a stop to it. No
Yeah.
kids out of
So
this guy.
yeah, I think
Bro.
when anybody can get vulnerable and look at not what's broken, but why it happened, how it happened, and the lesson that should have been learned, and then utilize that as a stepping stone and not a dagger in the back, and remove that hatred, because that takes up so much energy and so much space in you. There's no room for new experience. There's no
Right.
room for joy. It's like, if you're not willing to put that down, you're fucked. Oh,
You
sorry, I
are?
don't know if I can say
No,
that,
it's all
but
right. We can't on YouTube. They hate us. Apple doesn't mind bad language, so we can fuck away if you
so,
want, man.
I don't want to use it too much, but like, in the sense that if you're not willing to put down those old stones and learn from them and make room for new ones that are positive and light and can help you, then you're just not ready for that,
I have a
So,
friend who basically he's getting older and his friends are staying younger, and he's going to raves, and he watches the podcast but thinks it's misogynistic, so doesn't listen too much. He has hair down to his butt. I talk about him a lot. He's one of my best friends, and he never comes to my fights. And he's basically the world around him's changing, but he keeps it the same in party mode. And he's going into his 30s, popping Molly, going to raves, and spending like 10 grand a year and renting. And I keep thinking and doing the compound analysis of how much compound interest 10 grand a year is. And he's flying to exotic countries just to rave, but comes home to having roommates at almost 30. And it baffles me, man.
yeah, that's that adult binky,
Yeah,
and people don't like to hear that, but it's just their
I like
unwillingness
that.
to look at what's behind the curtain. And a lot of it's just pain and trauma. And that's where that exposure therapy, where if you're around somebody who can like protect you in a sense of walking you through it safely and helping you understand it and allowing you to cry and allowing you to get past it, and then move forward with confidence and with love and compassion, and accepting that forgiveness, that accepting that apology you'll never receive. Like, that's part of growing up, and that's part of letting go and moving on. Not that you forget it, but that you just made more room for somebody to love you, for you to love you, for good things to happen in your life. But when you're bitter, there's that perma gray cloud. I had a really bad year. It's
Yeah.
like, damn, you need to have a bad moment, and I can teach you how to have a bad moment. But if you're having bad weeks and bad months and bad years,
There's a
you
problem.
got some work to do.
Yeah.
That's just anger, just burrowing up in you.
What do
And
you
I
think
can
about
help with that.
the men with the victim mindset? Because I'm seeing more men today in this modern era with a victim mindset. Now you see it mainly out of women, but
Yeah.
now I'm meeting a lot of men with the victim mindset, and I don't know how to help them. It's like go to the gym. That's what I tell them.
Yeah.
That's my defer to pretty much 90% of my male friends. Go to the gym. If
Yeah.
you're
I think
fat, lose the weight. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
I think it just all comes down to, yeah, for me, I just have a quick conversation with them about where it stems from. And then when they can see it in true color, because a lot of the times, like, I'll explain in mine. I went to rehab and I'm mad. My wife just left me. The bank took everything. All this stuff is going on and it's chaos, right? And somebody in there was like, no, when did you first stop hating it or start hating yourself? And so I
Oh,
was like, oh, well, about 9 years old. They're like, talk to that dude. So I
yeah,
went
that's it.
back and I worked back where it wasn't so personal in my face, and found that, is it a coincidence that I've been divorced 3 times and it's always their fault? No.
No,
I protected
absolutely
myself
not.
from being left because I always felt alone and I didn't want to be the one to be counted last. And then
Anxious
they're like,
avoidant.
holy shit,
Yeah.
and then that's not victim. They can actually start to weed through it. And when I see any victim, male or female, I see a little kid.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that. That's how you
Because,
can get into that analysis of like how you can help them too. So
yeah,
let's go ahead and segue. I want this to be a 3-part series so we can end it But and again, I didn't get to any of my questions because you've been such a great host, and
That
our
was five
audience is,
part.
yeah, well, it might be a 30 part. I don't know, and maybe you'll have to send us an invoice now. Like we're getting to that point. And so what's the best way for our audience to get a hold of Rob Eastman?
So I do most of my work on Instagram, which is
Okay.
tattooed life coach and the number 8. And then, I have a website, eastmanfitnessutah.com, that they could get to me for coaching of any kind. And man, I've got a wide spectrum of understanding where most people don't, like highest level of politics, highest level of religion, highest level of,
No, you've
living
been
up here.
exposed to so many different elements,
Yeah,
right? Your
death,
whole life.
trauma, divorce, bullying, like suicide. Just I
How
can cover a lot of
comfortable
things.
how comfortable would you be with live call-ins if we do another show like this from
Oh,
our
I'm
audience?
game on.
Okay, cool. Because we haven't done it and we have the audience now, and we get DMs up the ass like, "Hey, do you mind if I come on and ask you questions?" So I
I'd
think
love that. That'd be cool.
I would really love to see how many of our followers need some sort of this help and they're willing to step up and talk about it because I
Yeah.
think they want to hide it first. And I like what you said about seeing a child. You see the child because that's what we are. That's what we came from.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like
Nobody, if you see somebody who's acting a fool or playing the victim, they're sad. I mean, that's, you know how that feels. You've been there. You're scared,
well,
you're lashing out. That's just a cry for help. It's an adult tantrum. Like, man, I'm drowning. So I used to be like David Goggins, right? Just but at
yeah,
the end of the day, I'm even as tough as I am. That little kid is still in me.
of course.
We want
They
to we
never
want to
leave.
understand and we want to love that person. And if I don't have the tools, then how am I supposed to act different? And if nobody takes the time to give me those tools, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
rather
man.
than telling them to go to the gym, take them to the gym.
Oh, I like that. I like that
And
so
don't
much.
start them off heavy and make them feel stupid. Start them off light and make them want more.
Oh, I love that. Gosh,
So
come on, Rob. You were a genius. You're the well put together package. How I don't. What's the age of you? What's the age of you? What a weird way to ask that. What's the age of you, Rob?
I'm that I work with, or how old am I?
You.
I'm
37.
44.
Wow. So you do. I mean, you look as old as I do. So better than I do, obviously. But I mean, we could do a flex off. I don't know. Oh fuck. Yeah, I need to get some new tattoos. I'm gonna say that's gonna be the header image. How to conquer the inner child. So what I'll do is we're gonna chop this up, send it to the video editor. Basically, what are 3 things? I'll just give you a spotlight for 15 seconds that you want to talk about. Just promoting yourself. Go whenever you're ready.
Man, I'm not much. I'm just a guy who's been through some stuff and gets the pain. So if you need help, reach out. But I've got this tattoo, says it's better to stand and fight. If you run, you will only die tired. And I got sick of running. My mental health controlled me, my relationships controlled me, my money controlled me until it almost killed me. So if you're struggling, if you need help understanding how to love yourself, how to see the good in you, reach out. I got you. And if I don't got you, I got somebody who got you. So thank you for the
Wow.
time, man. I appreciate you
Dude,
having me
no,
on.
Rob, I appreciate you and everything that you're doing out there. So I'll connect with you after this, and we'll get the brand assets and start titling the show, and then schedule you in for part 2. Because like I said, I haven't asked one question I prepared all night for. So, you see these bags under my fucking eyes. I'm tired as shit.
Sorry, I got some
I was
cream
all
for
prepared.
that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I need some, man. Like I stayed up all night writing all these questions. I'm gonna send you a screenshot of all the notes I have. But man, what a pleasure it's been. So peace out, and I'll make sure that we reach out to you pretty soon, okay? And I'll let you
Awesome.
know when it goes live.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Rob, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Rob Eastman is something very special. We couldn't pass up the opportunity to speak with him and share his experience with you guys. We talk about the 5 modern pillars to success, but we don't talk about the ups and downs that comes with it. What happens when you start a business and it fails? What's your outlet to talk about it? What happens when you make a big investment and it fails? What do? Do you crash and burn? Do you keep fighting? What happens when you're dating and you keep dating and your dates fail? Are you looking at that guy, like Rob Eastman said, the inner child? Are you figuring out what your attachment styles are? What happens in business when you have to fire your best friend? How do you handle that? Who's your outlet? So, guys, thank you so much for watching Modern Slackers. I don't even know what episode we're on today. Again, please go follow us on YouTube, subscribe, leave comments. We're gonna have Rob on quite a bit because I can already tell you guys are listening to this content with excitement, and he is going to be our go-to guy outlet for the problems that you're going to face with the 5 modern pillars to success. So thank you so much for watching Modern Slackers, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week.
Hi, my name is John. I'm the host of the show. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and push that subscribe button, and I might just give my dog a treat. Or don't and neglect the poor puppy. Good boy.